In this video, I want to help you keep track of your students' work and progress by using what are called the follow-up tasks and the 360 reports. Let's get started. When you open your course in It's Learning, you always land on the overview page. We talked about how the plans always show on the left side of this page, but to the right of that, you'll see what are called the follow-up tasks. Now, literally, this is just a list of any assignments, tests, or tasks that you have assigned in your course, and students have actually completed them. So you'll see here, I have 4 assignments that students have completed, I have a test, and I have a task. And at the end of each one of these, you'll see numbers. And those numbers represent the number of students who have completed that task since I last looked at it. So let's go ahead and look at this personification assignment. When I click on the box itself, it actually takes me to that assignment. And I'll be able to see 3 of the students have actually completed the assignment. So I can click on the first student's submission, and I can read their information, and I can go over here and I can say that is satisfactory, and I can give them some feedback and say Save Assessment. Now I'm going to stop there. I'm going to close this. Let's go back to the overview page. And now notice that is switched to 2 because I graded one of the 3 assignments. So as I grade the assignments, the number will decrease. Now let's look at the test. When I go to the test, only 1 student has taken it since I looked at it last. I see they got a 1 out of 5. When I go back to the overview page, notice that test is gone out of the list. So if it's a test and I don't have to grade anything, it's simply saying, hey, kid has taken it, you might want to go check the grade, but once you look at it, it vanishes from the list. Assignments, you actually have to grade them, give feedback before the number decreases completely. With a task, same thing, I go there, I can see this student has completed, he said yes, and now when I go back to the overview page, that task is now gone from the list as well. So this is a great way for you to know who has done work and who needs to continue to do work. It's Learning will be doing an update on this, hopefully right before school starts, and hopefully you will then also see a number that says how many have completed that assignment, test, or task compared to how many are in the class. So let's say I've got 24 kids in the class, it'll say, and 20 of them completed, it'll say 20 out of 24. So I can keep track of knowing just how many still need to complete that particular task. The next thing I want to show you are the 360 reports. Notice here on the white menu bar for your course, you'll have a tab that says 360 reports. If you click on that, it's going to come up and have a list of all of your students in the course. Now over here on the left, notice there are 3 different types of reports. There are activity reports, progress reports, and grades. Right now, I can just briefly look at this, and I can see that I have 5 students in my class. I can see in the last 7 days how often they've been in there. So the 7 dashes represent the 7 days. The bars tell me how many times they've been in on each of those days, and then I have an average amount of time that they've been in there. If I click on progress, I can see those same 5 students. I have 683 activities. Remember, activities are assignments, tests, tasks, and I have 1,965 resources. Those are pages, notes, links, and it tells me how many of each, or percentage of each, has been completed by the students. And then there's grades, where it just gives me a quick snapshot showing the grade trend for each of the students. Now I'm going to go back to the activity report, and I'm going to drill down. So I'm going to go in and look at student from NFHS. So if I click on that student's name, it's first going to take me into the activity report just for that student. So I can see here in the month of June, each day of the month, how many times or how many minutes the student has been in the course on that day. So on June 1st, this student was in there over 20 minutes. Didn't come back until June 4th, and so forth. Notice the course average is the line, so it shows other students' activities. As I scroll down, actually, let me show you, there's also up here, duration is in minutes. If I click here for visits, this tells me how many times they went into my course on each of those days. Now, if I scroll down, it'll break down all the months. So if this was a real student, hopefully I would see a lot of visits for each of the days during the online learning time. So those are the visit durations. I can click here and see the actions taken. And notice the darker the blue, the more things they actually did on those particular days. And then scrolling on down, how many posts did they do for discussions? And you can check all the graphs there. Now, I'm going to continue to the progress report for the same student. So when I click on progress, this is literally going to break down everything that I have in the course, all the activities, all the resources, and show me how many of them were completed on time, how many were done past the deadline, how many haven't been done at all, resources, how many have actually been opened, visited, not visited, so forth. So I'm just going to see an overall up here at the top, but if I scroll down, I literally see my course tree. So in my folder for Did You Know, I can see that this student has visited each of these first few items. And literally, I clicked on them and opened them, so there's not any time here. But if this was your real course, you'll be able to tell, was that student in there with fidelity? Did they really take time to look at and read the information? Notice here a test. They did take it, amount of time it took them to take it, and then shows me their results. They got a 4 out of 8. Now when I continue scrolling down, the next folder, the student has not opened anything. Keep in mind, if you're in school, they may not have needed this. They may have gotten these resources in the classroom. So it's not always a bad thing if they haven't opened something. But at the same time, this is a great way to know if a student is visiting. I want to point out here on this learning path. This learning path has multiple steps in it. But because a learning path only opens items as a student is progressing through the path, this is actually a way for you to see how far a student is in the path. So as a teacher, you know that this has 6 steps. And I can see that the student has done and completed the first one and just opened the task for step 2. But they haven't completed it yet. So I don't see the next steps. So this is a great way for you to just check on where your student is in terms of a learning path. And then they just continue down and you'll see everything in the course. You can sort this if you want to go through and say, hey, just show me the pages, just show me the assignments. You can actually sort those out as well. I then want to move on to the grades. And this is important if you are doing activities within your course with grades. My course is just a practice course, so my grades don't really mean a lot. But you'll be able to see the trends and what's happening with those graded assignments that you have for your students. Now I want to point out on every single one of these tabs, in the upper right-hand corner, there is a button that you can push for each student, and you can actually send a message right to that student. So if you're looking at this report and you see something and you have a question on, you can quickly send a message to that student straight from that report. So I just want to point that out. And then additionally, you can click here on the drop down for student names and jump from one student to the other. You don't have to go back to the main report if you don't want to. I am going to go back to the main report for a second. And I want to show you a couple final things. Notification settings, this is a new feature that itslearning just recently added. If you want to get a message that's giving you an update of what this report is showing, you can actually check this box and you'll get a weekly email with this report. I personally would just go here when I want to see things, but just wanted to point that out. And then your resources summary. This is really nice because it literally takes everything in your tree and it tells you for that particular item how many students out of the total number of students have actually been in and looked at that assignment. So only one of my 5 students have looked at this one. Same thing all the way down. And if I want to view details, I can click there and it's going to break it down and tell me which student visited and which ones did not. So that's just a lot of great information and details for you. I hope that this helps you track your students' work and makes you feel more comfortable in knowing how they're doing within your itslearning course.